Hello everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Radiorama. And this is not a radio. As you can obviously see, this is a 6-volt wind turbine. And I bought this online a couple of weeks ago. I'm out of breath because it's quite heavy, and I brought it out here in preparation for the episode. But anyway, good part of rural America in the 20s, 30s, even 40s did not have electricity. And so the only way that you could listen to the radio was you had to have a battery operated radio, and batteries were not cheap. And so a couple of companies developed battery systems. Either you had a gas powered generator, or you'd have a dry battery that had to be replaced every so often, or you'd have a battery out of your tractor that would charge via the tractor, or you could get one of these, which either would mount on your roof or in your yard or on your barn or whatever. And it's a 6-volt essentially generator. I think it's very similar to what came on a car. Hey Waffles, it's our new cat. Let me feed him real quick. Meow. Anyway, we're now feeding Waffles. Good boy. All right, so anyway, these were sold all over rural America, and there was a company called Wincharger. Zenith bought the company and the factory, and I think they were in Iowa. And this is not as common of a version because it's actually a dealer display. It wouldn't have had all this advertising on it. You see it says, operate your Zenith radio 10 hours a day for 50 cents a year. Stop buying batteries. 500,000 satisfied farm users can't be wrong. Now, amazingly, somehow the original wooden propeller has survived. That's not common. Usually these were sold places where they would just rot. This was from California, so it was dry. I believe it is made out of cedar or cypress. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, the leading edge has copper for the leading edge. It does have a centrifugal brake, and a centrifugal brake is supposed to engage with this brake shoe. It looks like someone has permanently wired the engagement device with this wire. And the bearing actually freely turns. It is not generating any electricity because one of the brushes is worn out. And so I was going to take the brush out, take it to the hardware store, and see if there was any that was similar shape. I looked online, and I cannot hardly find anything about these guys. I don't think many of them survived, because again, they were meant to be outside. You put them on the barn, they would just disintegrate, and there's nothing left. So there's very little information about it. It's missing the stand, so I'm going to probably make a stand for it. And what I want to do is have this functioning for our museum's annual radio day. We already have a 6-volt battery and a 6-volt radio restored, so we'll see. I'm hoping that the windings are good on the generator. Also, I'm going to have to make a regulator. Anyway, so I've never done this before, and there's not a lot of information, as I say, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so what I've done is I've removed the side cover to reveal the brushes, and it looks like the brushes are actually adjustable. I was able to loosen the screw here, and now the brush is riding up against the stator. Let's see if I can get it to... I want it to be like pretty much right up against it. I'm going to do all three. There's 3 brushes on here. There's a ground, and then there's 2 positives. I'm hoping there's not a brush missing here. It's hard to tell. But I want it to start, generating juice. That's the first most important thing. Okay, I was able to actually get it to start generating electrical power. So if I twist this, you can see it's starting to generate juice. I've got it on the 10-volt setting because it's as low as this Simpson meter will go because I left my fluke over at the museum. What I'm doing is I think the brushes need to settle in after adjusting, and I need to clean these up. There's a bunch of oil and shit all over it, so I think what I'm going to do is go to the store and get some carb cleaner. But that's good. That means the windings are good. The brushes are adjustable, and I've got a lot of adjustment left on those things. I don't know what that is. I'm assuming it's a spark arrestor. I don't know. This wiring is obviously hosed. I need to go to the museum. I left my stuff there. What I also want to do is make a stand for this guy, and I'm wondering, does that pipe come out of there? If it does, then I can take the pipe with me, and I can determine what size of stand I need. We got a bunch of plumbing crap over there at the museum, so I might be able to just take this pipe. I need to cut that off because that's obviously not original. All right, well, I came back from the museum, and this is my stand bits and pieces. This used to be on my roof. This was for my internet receiver and a satellite. That'll be the tripod. This will be the base with the base attachment that came off of an umbrella. This is part of our canopy tent that blew over during a storm. And what I did is I took over this piece of pipe that came out of the bottom of the windmill to make sure it all fit. And I got some hardware, including some bearing washers, so that the thing can pivot to move back and forth in the wind. And it's always windy here, along the coast, so should be able to make that happen. I'm also going to spray paint that stuff matte black. And I've been debating, everyone else is telling me don't paint this thing, it's old. Maybe put WD-40 on it. I don't intend to ever use it during the rainy season. It's pretty dry out here, 7 or 8 months out of the year. I'm just hoping that this is going to be tall enough, because probably once it's in here it's going to be about yay tall, and the propeller is pretty tall, so I need to do a comparison to see, because I don't want the propeller to like hit the ground or other shit in the way. So here's the propeller, and if it's up here, way up here, it's not going to hit the ground. Speaking of the propeller, I did get some penetrating clear wood epoxy, and what that'll do is go deep into the grain and solidify everything. I mean, the wood's in pretty good shape, but I want to make sure that it's basically stabilized. It's not going to crack or anything. Okay, I'm going to use this product that one of my friends recommended. It's a Minwax wood hardener. It's basically an epoxy that goes in and soaks the wood. It's really liquidy. It's like water. And you just want to soak the crap out of the wood, both sides, and it'll get into all of the dried out grains and form a kind of a plastic. And I was told just wipe off the loose dirt and dust on top. And according to the instructions, you just want to, you can't use a good brush, it'll ruin the brush. And you don't want to use anything nice, so I got this cottage cheese container. I'm just going to like rapidly soak the whole thing, both sides, and apparently it just dries as soon as it comes out of the bottle, so I'm assuming this stuff must be horrific, which is why I'm doing it outside. Okay, I'm going to spray paint the base and the parts to make them look more uniform. I'm not going to paint the machine itself. I want to leave it original. This is the blade. It's still drying. You see the stuff just soaks in and forms like a hard epoxy, so it has more structural strength, enough to like decapitate birds when it flies through it. And I'm going to paint this stuff up. What I'm going to do with this, I'm going to take this to, I already said it, to our event. I want it to be working, and I have about 6 weeks before that happens. Okay, I've been fabbing up the thingamabob here, and looks like our ducks are back. They hang out with us all the time now, so I'm not sure if Mrs. Duck miscarried and didn't have any eggs. I'm not sure how it goes in Duckland, but anyway, what I also need to do is, I think before I do anything, I need to fab this up and make sure that the windmill's not going to whack the floor, because I feel like things are going too well. I've only mocked this up in an hour. The other thing that I'm going to do is this is the base. I need to cut it right here. I want this for the base because it's pretty thick steel and it's got this flange mount, so that'll do a lot better. Okay, so I got it on the stand. That thing is heavy. Had a hell of a time hoisting it up there. What I did is I found these flat washers. They're not even greased up, but this is already going in the same direction as the other windmills are, so I know it's working. Let's see if I move it, will it work? Well, it's also not on even ground, it's leaning over. If I want to put grease on there, it should work a lot better. I also need to put the set screws in here, or the set bolts, so this is not wiggling around. It seems like the weight actually holds it down pretty good. Okay, so I applied some flat black paint for the stand, so now it looks all nice and uniform. And so now it's time to go flip the propeller over. This is dried. And we'll soak and saturate the other side with this goo, whatever it's made out of, poison, and let that dry. Okay, so I want to replace this rotten wiring and also lubricate the bearings real good. I did it a little bit yesterday, but it was WD-40. I was just, all right, get some in the back bearing here. There we go. It's turning very nicely. I'm not afraid to use a whole lot. Alright. So I'm going to have to loosen these guys up. I'm going to have to get a little PB blaster on those guys. Those are pretty rusted up. Okay, now that well, actually I forgot to show you what I did. Too excited about this. I need to slow down. So I put new cabling on the generator, and what I want to do now is free up the air brake, or whatever this is called. I don't usually use this stuff because I hate the way it smells, but it works great. It's called PB Blaster. I haven't really read the label on this, but it's got the most ridiculous label. Champions of the Rust Belt, made in America. What else does it say on here? Directions. Hey, shake the can and completely saturate the troubled area. Don't hold back. If you think it's not enough, go ahead, spray it more. Well, it seems like very promising, so I'm going to spray the crap out of it like it says. Oh my god. Yuck. Ugh, I hate the way this stuff smells. I'll have to definitely let it sit out here for a long time. Anyway, I'm not sure what it's supposed to do, but according to the can, it's supposed to be pretty magical. Sounds very American. Anyway, I'm not really making fun of it. I'm sure it worked great. Alright. Let that sit for a few minutes. Luckily the wind's blowing that way, so I'll just smell it. Alright, wow, it's starting to go. There she goes. We're gonna have to put a fence around this thing. These blades are huge. Oh my god. Jesus. Okay, everything's mounted up. And the reason I'm not letting it go right now is because I tested it out, and at first it was going kind of nice and smooth, and then it was flying. I mean, it was like you could hear it just whooshing. And I don't understand how that brake is supposed to work. Anyway, I took the wiring off of it. So I'm going to look online. I have no idea, man. I don't want this thing to like go exploding into pieces. That'd be a shame after spending all this time on it. All right, I'm about ready to let this thing go free. I have to admit, I did let it go a little bit. I have a little light down here to see if it's going to generate any juice. I'm prepared to totally stop this in case it goes nuts. Ow! Just want to Let's see if that light doesn't. Oh, I need to get away from the fucking blades. I remember the first time I did it, it took a little while to get going. Let me see if I can get it started. All right. Whoa. That's a significant blade. Ah, Jesus. Whoa. Filming this is frightening. I can't see the filament. Like the sunlight getting through there. I think I see a filament. Maybe not. I don't know. It's really going now. Cannot tell. It's too flashy. All right, so welcome to day number 2, actually, of working on the Wincharger. And I took a little time and went online and asked some questions on the radio forum about what could be happening here when I'm not getting any juice. And the answer I got back was, they said that the stator needs to be really clean. And all the gunk that's in between these guys needs to be cleaned out. They said use a razor blade or something. It's got to be super clean and smooth. And also these brushes really need to be in good contact with the surface. So I'm going to try to do that. Alright, I've been hemming and hawing in this thing for about an hour. Cleaned up everything, cleaned the stator, cleaned the brushes, cleaned everything. I still wasn't getting anything. Turns out it's dirty contacts. That's really what all it was. Whew. Sorry, the dog just decided to chase the ducks. So I need to clean those contacts up real good. Because I was spinning this thing, I was getting pretty good voltage. See, I'm barely turning it. Let's see if I spin it really hard. Where can I get on this? Yeah, that's pretty good. That is right about 6 volts. All right, well, I read the meter wrong. I'm actually getting about 2 volts out of it. And interestingly enough, I looked on a Model A forum, and there was discussion. The third brush is what adjusts your amperage, your output. And right now, because I pushed it all the way up, it's at its basically at its lowest setting. I'm not sure how that could possibly be, but I'll take the word of the person doing the video. Apparently a lot of Model A's use a very similar generator. So I'm going to try to push this back down, see if I get any increase out of voltage. Yee! Try not to get hit by this thing, though. I'm not sure if you can see this, but that light bulb is lighting up. So it's doing something. But it has to be spinning pretty damn good for it to produce any juice at all. Let me see if I can get it aimed right again, get that bulb going. This probably is not showing up because I'm competing against the sunlight, but it's that little bulb there is actually glowing pretty good. God, this thing is scary. I mean, I feel like I'm about to get whacked in the head with it, so hopefully the mailman's not going to deliver the mail. I think they've already delivered it because I don't want them to walk into this thing. Alright. It's not a windmill, no, but it is a future thing that'll have to do with the windmill. We needed to have an ammeter and a cutoff voltage regulator. So I'm over here at the museum, and I have a project box and Museum President Steve indicated that we have something called Greenlee punches, which I'd heard about, but I didn't really know what they did. I figured they punched something. But you see, they make much neater holes. And so I've made a hole here. This bolt goes through here, and then you sandwich this part and that part together, and it will punch out a nice, neat, clean hole for the ammeter. Red, you'll know it's working. Oh shit! Hold on, don't film yet.
Edit.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do here. Is that we just tighten this, and there's little teeth underneath there that bite into the metal. I'm glad this is aluminum, because if it was steel, it'd be a hell of a lot harder. But you can tell it's already punching its way through. I don't call them punches for nothing. It's about 3/4 of the way through. There we go. You can feel it snapping. Look at that.
Yay!
Now, hopefully, this ammeter will... Uh-oh. Not quite. Might have to get my Dremel tool, neaten it up a little bit. But okay, so I'm back and have my cutoff thingamabob here, cutoff relay, and my ammeter, my power switch, a cute little indicator light, which I don't really need, but I just put it on there anyway. And so I have my cable coming out the side here. Tomorrow I'll wire it all up. I just wanted to get this ready for tomorrow. But we're off to a good start on getting this contraption put together. I'll show a little trick that I learned over the years. If you want to get old packed up grease out of an old bearing like this, get it hot. There we go. It's particularly nasty grease. You can spray it with WD-40. Meanwhile, a blowtorch went out. Anyway, that didn't work very well, but usually it does. I'm filming, by the way. All right, so we are taking the generator into surgery. My friend Rajesh is helping me. He's a lot smarter than me, so he can help me figure it out. And so what we're going to do is pull the entire assembly apart. The thing is that there's two wires here, and there's a wire on one of these other terminals. I think it's that one, so I have to somehow release that guy. And then we can pull it free. Because if we damage this, we're hosed. Okay, what we've done is we did succeed in pulling this guy out. And here we can see the field coils inside. And
perfect.
okay, so we determined that the field coil is fine. And now we're going to inspect this guy here. I'm not the biggest Moody Blues fan. Anyway.
Now we need to pour some electrons into it.
Yeah, so we need to pour electronic juice all over it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we got it back together again. Brush is cleaned, everything cleaned up. Now we're going to flash it with a 6-volt power supply. See if we get juice, and if we do, we're going to set it up on the stand outside and let her rip. Okay, what we're doing is reflashing the generator. We've got a DC power supply, and we've been generally slowly applying more power. So now that should have remagnetized the fields. The next test is to get a drill with an attachment, spin it as fast as we can, see what comes out the other end. Okay, another mistake. We noticed that the ground brush wasn't contacting the whatever this is, commutator, and the old wire was completely messed up, and it was tugging on this and not allowing it to make contact. Our Rajesh checked all of the commutator links to ground, they're all fine. We're going to take the tail off the back of it so it'll make easier assembly. And we're going to test it to see if we're getting any juice out of it. So that breaks it up. You know, it's really so we'll see. And then we're doing different things, like on the Thursday. Okay, welcome back to whatever day it is, working on the Wincharger. And it's been about a week since I've touched it. I wanted to do some research, get some more advice, and lo and behold, one of the members on our Antique Radio Forum sent me the manual to this, and there's a few things that I didn't know that are critical. Number one, these things are supposed to be mounted way up in the air, like way up, 10, 15, 20 feet up in the air, so that they get access to unobscured, pure, raw wind. And they need to be going pretty fast too. It won't start generating power until it gets up to at least 300 RPM, which I probably was barely doing here. I didn't film it because I don't know, got distracted. But this light bulb would only light up occasionally. The other thing is my brushes were worn. And I did find that brushes off of a Ford Model A will work. There's a company that manufactures these. Barrel City, Texas, wherever in the heck that is. I didn't look it up on the map, but it sounds like an interesting name. But so I need to replace. Oh, the other thing I found out is that there's a screw here. It's this one right here. This is for adjusting the third brush. You can see there's like a bracket right here that holds the brush, and the way it's supposed to be adjusted and the way that I have it adjusted incorrectly is you're supposed to have only one commutator section away from the other brush. The closer you cinch them up, the more power it generates, or the more amperage it generates. So I'm going to install these new brushes. I think I'm going to do another cleaning between these commutator settings. And what I'm hoping is that with the new brush, it'll have better solid contact. The other thing too is, like, you should not run these without a battery. According to the manual, it can stress out the armature. But I am running it with a load with this light, so that should alleviate having that kind of thing happen. It's pretty windy today. My other windmills are going like nuts. Major change in the weather. We're getting a hot spell coming in through here, so be a good day to test it out. This thing does scare the living crap out of my wife and anyone else that looks at it. So but my wife is still working, so maybe I can get this tested before she comes out and gets disturbed by it again. Okay, so again, this is really hard to film, but I have my two new brushes installed. What's nice is that these even came with a little curve, so they fit snugly over the commutator. You can hear them actually. That's kind of what we want to hear. And they'll eventually break themselves in. Now what I'm going to do is get the drill attachment and see if I can spin this up and get the light to light. Because I'm not so sure about their third brush adjustment thingy. Because I remember when we had it full out all the way, it was generating more juice, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so I've mounted it up. This thing is scary to get near. I'm not sure if it's going to get going fast enough to light that bulb. Like, it has to get up to at least 300 RPM. That's nowhere near 300 RPM. Come on, baby, you can do it. Yeah, it's just not enough wind. But I don't want to let it run for a little bit, let those brushes kind of break in. think what I'm going to do now is maybe hook up a multimeter, see if I'm getting any juice off of it. All right, let's try this. This makes me nervous. Definitely generating juice. Okay, so I'm over at the museum, and like we're hemming and hawing about this, and what we did is we hooked up a battery to it, but it should make a difference because, according to Rajesh here, he says the diode will make it to where it doesn't make a difference. But anyway,
Cutout relay, yeah.
Well-
The diode's the cutout relay.
I think what I got the manual for this thing, and it turns out you have to have a minimum of 300 RPM to get it to do anything, and I don't think that the wind that I have is enough. You need to put it on top of a house in Kansas and wait for the tornado to come by and whip the Wicked Witch of the East onto her bicycle. But anyway, we're still trying to figure it out.
You've actually got it putting it out. I'd put it out in the window of your house and see. Now that you've actually got it starts putting out a little bit more voltage.
Yeah.
Try to replicate it at home and see if you can get it turning consistently and get the 6 volts.
Am I going to drain the battery with it like that?
No, the diode.
A diode?
That's your cutout relay.
Okay. Yeah, we put this
We
big...
need to call that a cutout relay so old people know what you're talking about.
Yeah, here's the cutout relay right there. Okay, so I've got the windmill going at a decent clip now. So here I got my indicator light going. Ammeter's registering pretty good. Battery's charging. It still does scare people when they come by. They're like, what is that? Either that or they're just amazed. They're like, what is that thing? But anyway, I'm going to let it run here for a while. Just make sure everything's going hunky-dory here. And I think if all works out and this continues to run reliably for the next few days, ooh, let's check this out. Anyway, I'm going to find one of our 6-volt radios, see if I can make this whole contraption work together. All right, here's an update on the Wincharger, and the update is finally found an actual Zenith 6-volt farm radio. It's been a couple months since I've worked on this episode. A lot of times these battery sets work because they weren't bashed up as badly as their plug-in-the-wall brethren. So I don't know if it works or not, but I do have my battery connected. This does have an internal vibrator. If you don't know what that is, it's not a dirty thing you buy at the adult store, but it's this thing right here. I'm going to try to explain this, but basically the way it works is you've got two contacts that beat together like 60,000 times a second or something crazy. It's probably more like 60 hertz. I have no idea. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, that converts 6 volts into like 100 and some odd volts to operate the B plus on the set. Again, I don't know if it works, but we'll try it out. You can hear the vibrator going. And we got pilot light. But will it pick up anything? Okay, the electrolytics are bad. That guy up there, that golden colored thing, it's an electrolytic, and we've got AC, well not AC hum. It's a different kind of hum. Hummer hum coming out of the speaker. Ow. So I was taking this chassis out, and somehow at the last second, these cords grabbed onto something, and it fell. It didn't hit the floor, it hit my shins. Oh, fuck, that hurts. Oh. Anyway, Oh yeah, radio. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, there's a good power transformer here. And there's no markings on the electrolytic. At least that's what I assume that has to be. But I won't be able to tell because it's buried under this cover. The question is why would you want to do that? I'm going to do the bare minimum on this because it's just going to be a demonstration radio. Probably the electrolytics will be fine unless I damaged it. Even though I had a good... I got to clean this out. I think they might have had this shielded because this is the vibrator unit. And it probably creates an awful lot of interference, so they created this little shielded box around it. I was told that out of the battery sets, if you're going to replace anything, you at least got to replace the electrolytics and then the caps connected to the vibrator, because those are one of the few that get whacked really hard in this thing. I'm going to have to get this out of the way so I can replace these two guys. I need to look up the model number because the capacitor's not marked. It's probably be something low, like 10 microfarads or something, given this era. But we'll find out soon enough when I pull it up on Nostalgia Air, assuming I can find the model number. Okay, I looked up and the values are like 4 and 8 microfarad. So I'm just going to put two 10 microfarad caps in there and call it a day. Doesn't have to be that close. Replace that guy, and we got 3 more here. And then I can try it out. Okay, so all of the electrolytics and the critical caps coming off the vibrator are now replaced. Might as well go ahead and button this up because there's nothing more to replace in it. And that's all I'm going to replace for the moment because I want to see if the set is actually going to do anything like work. Alright, so time to test fire. That sound is scary, that buzzing noise.
Seth, are all your cords up out of the way for Vladimir?
No, I'll check it in just a minute.
He's doing it now. I don't know what I should do.
I'll move them. Sorry about that, folks. A couple months ago, we got one of those robot vacuum cleaners. And for some reason, we insist on naming all of our appliances. So that was Vladimira, the vacuum. And you can't leave any cords on the floor or it'll eat them up. So I had to go in there and move the cords. But the radio does not work. And part of me wonders if when I dropped it, I might have broke one of the filaments because these are battery tubes. And battery tubes have much, much thinner filaments and they're much easier to break. So I'm going to go ahead and test these guys. It's the logically most easiest next thing to do. I know I don't have any of these here, so if one of them is bad, I'm going to have to drive over to the museum and get some. So I'm going to get out the tube tester and see if all of these are checking out. Well, 6A8, 6T7, and 6S7 are all bad. One of them shorted, and 2 of them have open filament, so it's not going to work. So I'm going to go to the museum. I'm also going to get a beefy 6-volt power supply. I want to make sure I have enough juice and I don't use up my battery that quickly, because I'm not even sure if this is enough juice. Standby use, 6.7 volts. Initial current is less than 3 amps. I think I need 2 amps to power the radio, so that should do it. There's not a lot of capacity in that battery, but then again, I believe once the windmill gets going like gangbusters, I don't know. We'll see. Well, we have a lot of tubes over there at the museum, but we don't have the tubes that I need. I did bring this Hewlett-Packard power supply over just to see what it would do. So we got filament there, and filament here, but these other two, these are the ones that are bad, have no filament. I'm also going to test something. I'm curious if my battery has enough to actually light the filaments, because I don't recall seeing the filaments light with the battery. So I'm going to disconnect the power supply here and try the battery. Okay, I can confirm the battery will actually light the filaments. So the battery's good enough. And it seems like it's actually, I know it's not a good scientific measure, but the vibrator's making the same vibrating frequency. So haven't had to do this in years. I'm gonna have to order some tubes, and this project's gonna have to go kind of on the back bench for a little while. Guess I'll start working on this guy as an Arvin. That'll be an episode you'll see before this one. It's been about 3 months that I've been working on this whole Wincharger thing, so thanks for bearing with me if you're still here. Okay, it's been a few days and the new tubes came in. And the set now does actually work. I forgot to film it working, but I'll show it working in a minute anyway. But now what I'm going to do is just go over this case with a little Old English furniture rejuvenator. It's actually in pretty good shape. And then I'll put this back in, and then we'll do a demo. The last part of this video will be demonstrating the windmill going full tilt, running through the regulator, running to the battery, and then the battery subsequently being connected to the radio. Unfortunately, it's going to be a hot day today, and there's no wind, so that's probably going to have to wait for a few more days. I want to make sure that this is getting all the juice it can possibly get, because this set uses about 2 amps, which is quite a bit of draw on a battery, especially the small battery that I have. Okay, so we got our power supply hooked up. Let's go ahead and fire it up. And we can hear the vibrator going to town back here. And the tubes are lighting up.
সেই মানুষটিকে যার লেখা প্রত্যেকটি শব্দ Listen to Radio Mirchi 13.
Material resources, we cannot trust in our education. And they were doing really well, they just couldn't him anyway.
Of a southern metro city, and since only 16% of voters in Raleigh were black,
we see a truly explosive Penn State
for everything that matters most to your clients.
Man, that's strange. I guess you just would have to deal with that noise. I guess it wouldn't matter.
And your trusted Marvin dealer. That's replacementmadeeasy.com.
Anyway, it seems to work pretty well. I might let it run for a little while just to make sure it's going to be good. And then the last part of this super long winding episode will be putting it all together. The radio, the Wincharger, the regulator, all that stuff. But again, it's not windy enough today, so I can't do it. Hey everybody, welcome to day who knows what of working on the Zenith Wincharger and its companion Zenith 6-volt farm radio. And we've had no wind for a long time, and now we have remnants of a hurricane coming through, and it was really windy earlier, so I was hoping I could film the last episode, or film the last section of this episode, but for now the wind has kind of calmed down a little bit, so it's not really moving. But I have everything set up ready to go. I have my regulator, which can charge the battery, and then the radio is connected to the battery, so that when and if the wind picks up, which I certainly hope it does, because it's not fun putting this thing up. I'm thinking maybe later when things start to cool down, because it's hot, maybe the wind will pick up again, but right now it's pretty quiet. Okay, the windmill's finally putting out some juice. Now it's time to crank on the radio. I'm wondering how much noise is going to come through the radio from the generator.
County are being held on charges of participating in a massive ship.
I'm going to extend my antenna. Let me get a better antenna for this thing. Alright, finally we have juice pulsing through the regulator. And the regulator, let's see. Yep. indicator light means we're charging, so let's fire up our farm radio. I'm curious if the generator sound is going to come through the radio, or the generator.
Exploration possible for more than 50 years. Visit TAIScorp.com. That's TAIScorp.com. This fall, the Grammy Award-winning opera, this high-tech production journeys through fragmented memories of jobs, life, and work.
So that's it, folks. This is what you had to do if you didn't have electrical power and you didn't want to have to buy new batteries all the time. You could get a big-ass windmill and keep your battery charged. This thing is awfully dangerous.
I heard you just sold your house to Just Better Cash buyers.
Yes, they offer $10,000 more than any other cash buyer.
Really? Do they buy houses in any condition?
Yup, they buy old houses, damaged houses.
Well, I don't need to sell my house to people like that. But anyway, I know this was kind of a long, meandering episode, but it all worked out in the end. And so I really wanted to have a full functioning Zenith farm radio / Wincharger set. So now it works. It actually works surprisingly well. I'm just going to let it run for a little while before putting it back in. Which jackasses would tear through my neighborhood like that? There's children that live here. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this episode of Radiorama. I've not been very good at answering questions lately, so I'm sorry about that. But until the next time, I'll see you guys next time. Adios.